Hello, everyone. I'm Matt Clark, research analyst for Money and Markets, also your host for the Bull and the Bear podcast and the Marijuana Market Update. And I want to look at the week ahead, what to watch on Wall Street here for Money and Markets. The airline business has not had a good year at all. It's not likely to get a whole lot better. I'm going to give you my thoughts here in a bit on a pair of airline giants who report earnings coming up this week, as well as talk about another big IPO that's expected to launch. But here's some of those things that investors are going to be watching this week on Wall Street. Big cybersecurity firm plans its initial public offering this week. McAfee Corporation plans to launch its IPO on or about October 22nd. The company hopes to trade on the NASDAQ under the ticker MCFE. Now, McAfee Corporation made a name for itself by developing and selling software designed to protect your computer against spam, malware, and other viruses. Sometimes this was actually even bundled in computer sales along with PCs. Over the last 30 years, the company has grown and developed its own threat intelligence network that analyzes and gathers data on roughly 500 million endpoints globally. It also has data workload protection software for cloud-based operations now in the market as well. This will be the second IPO listing for the company, as it traded publicly from 1999 to 2001 before it was delisted. For the 6 months ending in June of 2020, McAfee reported a net income of around $31 million on revenue of $1.4 billion. Same period a year ago, the company actually reported a net loss of $146 million on $1.3 billion in revenue. Now, the financial skinny here is the company is offering 31 million shares from the company and another 6 million shares offered by selling shareholders. They're looking at a price range of between $19 and $22 a share. The company hopes to generate around $814 million with its IPO. Following the IPO, there's expected to be more than 165 million Class A and about 266 million Class B shares outstanding. That'll give the company a valuation of around $9.5 billion. Lead underwriters for this IPO are Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, TPG Capital, Bank of America Securities, and Citigroup. Now, a little bit of history in terms of McAfee. The company was once part of Intel Corporation, which acquired McAfee for about $7.7 billion back in 2011. Remember, the company was delisted because its share price had dropped below market standards. So then Intel comes in and swoops it up for about $7.7 billion. Later in 2016, Intel transferred about 51% of its stake in McAfee to TPG Capital LP for about $1.1 billion. TPG is actually listed as one of McAfee's backers on its prospectus for its IPO. Now, McAfee's IPO won't be alone in the final quarter of the year in terms of big offerings. Home rental company Airbnb, and food delivery firm DoorDash are also planning to launch their IPOs later this year. McAfee's offering kind of comes at a time when the IPO market has started to rebound following a drop-off in April due to the coronavirus. So far this year, the biggest software IPO was Snowflake Inc, which raised about $3.8 billion in its IPO last month. So if McAfee's prospectus pans out, then McAfee would then take over as the largest software IPO so far this year. Now, in looking at earnings, it's no secret that airlines and the rest of the travel industry has just been hammered by the coronavirus. Passengers are staying off jets because of social distancing, and thus the rest of the travel industry, if you think of hotels and resorts and cruise ships and things like that, are also feeling the pain. Last week, United Airlines Holdings Incorporated reported a loss of $8.16 a share, which was worse than the average $7.60 a share that analysts had expected. Delta Airlines also reported an earnings loss to the tune of $3.30 per share, along with a 75% revenue drop. So you can just see how hard this is really hitting the airline industry. Both of those things for Delta were below analyst expectations. Now, this week, attention gets turned to American Airlines Group and Southwest Airlines Corporation, which are both expected to follow along the same lines in terms of losses. Both will report their earnings on Thursday this week. Analysts project American to lose about $7 a share on the average. I see that actually being a little high. I expect American to post earnings per share loss of under $7 per share. As for Southwest, the expectations of earnings loss is around $2.20 a share. I'm pretty much in line with that expectation, maybe even a little more, maybe up to $2.30 to $2.40 a share. The airline industry just continues to get beaten up by the coronavirus, and as infections start to tick up globally, as they are in countries in Europe and a little bit here in the United States, it opens the door for a very rough winter, which can be kind of seen as a strong travel season as northerners head south and people head to Christmas vacations and things like that. you may see the airline industry continue to take hits over the fourth quarter. Now, in the data dump this week, when the Fed speaks, investors tend to listen. And this week, investors are going to be paying a ton of attention as 7 Federal Reserve presidents, along with Fed Chairman Jerome Powell, have speeches planned for this week. Powell will speak on the Fed's economic outlook on Thursday morning, and the news isn't expected to be any better than it has been. I expect Powell is probably going to continue to press Congress for more fiscal relief for individuals and businesses while cautioning against any expectation that significant economic growth is in the offing due to the coronavirus as it creeps back into the fray. Congress right now still very much deadlocked as we approach Election Day in terms of whether they're going to offer any more stimulus or not. On one side, it's a very low end of the deal, whereas on the House side, the deal is very high, and they're trying to find a way to meet in the middle. So far, that hasn't happened. Late on Tuesday, Philadelphia Fed President Patrick Harker is going to speak, followed by Atlanta Fed President Raphael Bostic, and then Dallas Fed President Bob Kaplan will follow up later in the day. So Tuesday is going to be a big day for Fed discussions. On Wednesday, Atlanta, Boston, and Minneapolis Feds will hold a joint event on racism and the economy, while the New York Fed President John Williams will speak later in the afternoon. The Fed speaking tour will conclude on Thursday when Boston President Eric Rosengren, Atlanta Fed President Raphael Bostic, and Chicago Fed President Charles Evans will speak. The data dump continues on Thursday. The Department of Labor will release its weekly initial and continuing jobless claims. If you remember last week, claims were around 898,000. That was much higher than the estimate of 830,000. This suggests that an economic turnaround from the coronavirus is really starting to pump the brakes. And this is concerning, especially as we head in not only to the election, but also into the holiday shopping season. That 898,000 was actually the highest level of jobless claims since the middle of August. We're also just 2 weeks away from getting the latest gross domestic product forecasts, something that investors are watching out for. The median forecast for the third quarter is for GDP to grow about 31.9% now, following a loss of 31.4% in GDP in the second quarter. Third quarter GDP analysis is expected on October 29th. Again, we're right in the swing of third quarter earnings. So this week is chock full of more earnings reports. Last week, the financial sector kind of took front and center. This week, it's kind of a mixed bag. On Monday, Halliburton Company and International Business Machines Corporation, as you know it, is IBM. They will both report. That's Monday. On Tuesday, Lockheed Martin, the defense industry giant, along with Netflix and UBS Group AG, will be reporting their earnings. I'll be interested to see what kind of earnings Netflix comes out with, especially with subscription growth and more importantly, competition from things like Peacock, which is Comcast, as well as Disney+. On Wednesday, Chipotle Mexican Grill. You've read about them a couple times here in moneymarkets.com. We've talked about it. We've talked about Chipotle a couple times. They will report earnings on Wednesday, along with Kinder Morgan, which is the pipeline giant here in the U.S., based in Houston, and NextEra Energy, which has actually had a pretty good quarter in terms of its share price. They will release third quarter earnings Wednesday. On Thursday, as we talked about, American Airlines and Southwest Airlines Corp. We also have AT&T and Northrop Grumman Corporation. So we'll get a little bit of a peek into defense earnings with both Lockheed Martin and Northrop Grumman Corporation reporting earnings this week on Thursday for Northrop Grumman, rather. On Friday, American Express Company, along with Bloomin' Brands Incorporated, will be reporting earnings amongst many others. So it's a full week. Got a lot of talk from the Fed. That's going to be coming up. We've got an big IPO expected to launch. So a big week for investors coming up here on Wall Street. So until next time, I'm Matt Clark. I'm the research analyst for Money and Markets, as well as your host for the Bull and the Bear podcast and the Marijuana Market Update, all of which you can catch on our YouTube channel. Just if you're on YouTube, make sure you click the subscribe button and make sure you hit the notification bell so you can notified every time we release a new video. Until next time, everyone, have a great week and safe trading.